If it is banned, what we expect to see, and I think I spoke about this with Paul earlier, is an ongoing shift to meta platforms, specifically Instagram, because of Reels, and to YouTube's because of Shorts. So if you think about when we look at how much time people are spending on an app, 42% of people's time on Instagram is on Reels. 28% is on Reels for Facebook, and 27% is on Shorts for YouTube. So short form video is obviously a key driver of engagement, which is all that TikTok is. So we expect that should it be banned, we would expect more users to go there. But there's more at stake than just users and hours engaged. It's also in-app revenue. About 22% of ByteDance or TikTok's in-app revenue comes from the US, so that's a huge chunk. And when we look at the digital advertising space, we see about 9% of ad spend is on TikTok. So these are all dollars and hours engaged that would be up for grabs.
Hang on a second. TikTok, 28%?
22%.
22% of their revenue comes from the U.S.
From their in-app, of their global in-app revenue.
But what percentage of Instagram's in-app revenue comes from China?
Now that would be an interesting question.
China data is a little trickier for us to procure, as you can imagine, but Instagram
I was only
and YouTube,
posing that question because Instagram is banned in China. Facebook is banned in China. Snapchat is banned in China. Pinterest is banned in China. No U.S. social media apps are allowed in China, and yet we allow Chinese social media apps to cash in here. If the kids aren't using aren't using TikTok, they've started downloading Red Note, which is also Chinese, and Lemonade, which is also Chinese.
Lemonade is also owned by ByteDance. So they're both Chinese Chinese apps, and we've seen surges in download growth of those two apps starting at the end of last year. And particularly in the last week, we've seen a big bump in Red Note's downloads, over 100%, ending through Sunday from the prior week. So there's definitely surges of users downloading these alternative apps. Even my teenager mentioned it, which it's like, then it's in the media when the teenager knows that. So we're definitely seeing that surge, but that doesn't really make sense if the app it's banned because it's Chinese, because these are also Chinese owned. So I'm not sure how that would work in the long run, or if people would just move over and eventually those would also get banned if they do. But the other social media apps like Instagram and YouTube don't have the same in-app monetization that TikTok does for creators and stuff. So they would have to evolve their own platforms to make it as lucrative for creators as TikTok is.
I'll just clarify for the sake of those of you using a ton of TikTok.
Why, I don't know who you're looking at.
Why majorities of both parties are against it. So
he's looking at me.
One concern is that the Chinese could use your data to spy on you or to blackmail you.
Okay.
One concern is that China could shape the algorithm to send out more misinformation or stir up social unrest. And another concern is that China could use software updates for TikTok or Red Hat or Lemonade,
Red Note
to infiltrate your devices and to implant malware on your stuff.
Valid concerns.
Right?
Yeah,
but no one cares,
valid.
right? Nobody cares.
Apparently not.
I mean, it's a more useful demographic, so I guess they don't
But Donald
care.
Trump also doesn't seem to care, so...
We'll see how much
I
that
think
can actually...
he did care, and then he pivoted, and now he
doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
Right, because Jeff Yass from Susquehanna, who has a 15% stake in ByteDance, has given at least $8 million to a Republican super PAC.
Okay. Well, also Donald Trump has his own social media platform.
This is true.
Which is very small, but it has grown significantly since during the time
Truth
of the election.
Social.
Truth Social, yes.
I wonder how that does in China.
So, I mean, as we think about the app, what are the largest user base? How much, you mentioned 22% of their in-app revenue comes from the United States. What about users? Users
tend to skew younger. About 10% of their monthly active users come from the US. But we've also seen, this is sort of a separate secular issue, we've seen a little bit of, I would say, mobile app fatigue, where you're seeing a pullback in usage across dating apps, streaming, across the board, including social. So that's sort of a secular thing. And within TikTok, because it grew so fast and was sort of the first mover in short form video, it's seen a pullback. Like its monthly active users were down in the fourth quarter 1% year over year. DAUs were down 4%. So it's not seeing that same growth that the other platforms are seeing because it was already sort of saturated.
Interesting. My main question is, what does this mean for small businesses? Because you've seen a lot of businesses that have actually blown up through the use of TikTok, or maybe you're introduced to new brands through the app. So I'm curious how that will actually play out, and if that's been a conversation.
I think they would be forced to try to move to Instagram or to YouTube and try to monetize on those platforms. But again, I don't know if those are established or set up to be as lucrative for the creators. So they probably would have, with demand, be forced to evolve their own platforms. But I think that would obviously be a huge impact